So today I have Larry and Perry. They're business partners, and I've known them for a very long time. We actually lived in the same city when I was going to, when my wife was going to Harvard doing her undergraduate. We were all living in the same area, and we used to hang out all the time. They actually used to do marketing with Real Social Dynamics, doing our product launches. They created their own successful company. And I thought we would start off with you guys talking a little bit about your company, and then we'll go into questions about, you know, how I might be able to share some ideas that might be able to help your company, or anything that you might be interested in learning more about from me that we could share to the rest of the people who are watching the show.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, like what Nick said, that we used to do marketing for RSD, and then some marketing for RSD, and then we moved on to doing e-com, our own e-com business. And currently we have this one e-com business that we may potentially sell. We've been selling on Amazon for like 2 years for it. It's a brand. And then recently,
that company is like a white label company. You may explain that.
A private label company where we're manufacturing our own goods for like office products and back pain products, etc. And so yeah, hopefully we'll exit out of that. And then right now we're focusing on this new model, which is like a drop shipping model, selling various different types of products in different niches from products from overseas. So yeah, that one's doing pretty well. Like scaled pretty fast over like the last 4 months. It's been able to hit some good milestones, and so I think we're going to put all our resources into that this upcoming year.
What's the name of their product, and where can people find this product?
So for the Amazon company, the name of the product and brand is Simple Posture. So you can just go on Amazon and like basically rank for most of the keywords for our specific niche. If you have like back pain, or if you need like seat cushions, etc.
And buy all our stuff.
Yeah, and buy all our stuff. And then as far as this other drop shipping one, there's no real brand to it. It's almost like an affiliate model in the sense like we're just picking products that are selling really well, and then we are just advertising it straight off of Facebook. So no real brand. The only way you find it is really through Facebook, like our specific campaigns. Which actually leads me to like my first question. So like for someone like where we are currently, we're 24 years old, and we're, you know our situation pretty well, like where we stand in business. Like what would your recommendations be for like someone our age, like planning out the next 5 years, so we get into a good spot? Like,
yeah, I mean, you're talking about the whole EOS. Have you guys read Traction?
Yes.
The book about that? So you know very clearly about his game plan that I always recommended to people in terms of the EOS, in terms of mapping out your game plan. But I mean, I think in the first few businesses, if you're talking to me earlier about how you're trying to decide whether to move the business forward or whether you're trying to sell the company. And to create that leverage, the biggest thing you need to do is just show that you have a massive amount of sales. And that's how you're going to actually get that process where you can actually go and leverage that company for a sale. I mean, you guys are crushing it right now and doing that now. I think the key is just to grow that number as big as you can, because when your top line grows a lot, then you can also do a lot more with pretty much everything else. Mm-hmm. That's the main game plan for the first 5 years, but it's also making sure that you guys are continuing to make it stay solvent. Right now, you have a very lean business. Mm-hmm. My understanding is in your organization, it's you two guys, and who else is in your company? It's not a lot.
Not a lot, yeah. Just a full-time virtual assistant and customer service rep, and then everything else is just contracted out.
Yeah, so you create a situation where your business is kind of like what people could live automatically like on a beach and still be able to run this kind of company. And it's kind of a cool business, sustains your lifestyle, allows you to travel the world and do all those kind of things. I think that's great. And I think that most people that are in your situation have lifestyle businesses where you can do that, sustain that. And my company originally started off as exactly that kind of company. But we made a decision that instead of us selling it, and we had offers of people who wanted to buy our company, we decided to keep with it. Now when we did that, because in the first 5 years, you're trying to build a company to scale so that you could keep that company growing, staying your lifestyle. And you could sell earlier, but we got offers to sell our company in the first 3 years. Mm-hmm. We didn't take it. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of people that are powerful people, including people that you guys know that offered to buy portions of our company, and we said no to everyone.
Yeah, actually, I have a question about that. See, like RSD became like this company, and it was your passion from the beginning, right? So luckily for you, the first business you ever got in was your passion, was something you saw building long term. But like for us, we got into these two businesses thinking it's going to be a cash flow business. Like we don't really have an affinity to what we're selling. We don't think we're going to be selling, let's say, like on Amazon, or selling the type of products that we're selling in the next 5 years. And so we're treating right now all of this as like a means to like build up resources so we can eventually invest in a company we care about. Well, currently we just don't really know what's that big
Well, actually, like that's the question. It's like, which one would you recommend doing? Like, some people that recommend, sticking with one product or one company and just building it long term, deep, and then other people they're like, no, just generate cash first, and then maybe
invest.
Yeah.
So like the two paths that we see is build up cash and then invest in companies like tech companies, things that we're interested in, but we might not have like the skill sets for, or we go and like maybe dive deep into like some specific niche, like maybe like robotics or artificial intelligence, and try to build a company long term. So I don't know, if you were to like do it over again, or like if you were in our situation, do you think our path is like a good one where we're like building up cash, potentially investing? Or do you think we should maybe go and research like some of the emerging like tech and et cetera and get into that?
Well, if you look at my options and my choices, what I did was I built up RSD on the world of how to pick up girls. And I got into a relationship and I lost passion for that. And I then resigned as CEO of Real Social Dynamics, took a couple of years off to create a tech company that I thought would be a really cool, fun project. And I got really interested in the conference ideas, so hotel conferences specifically. So that we'd have an Airbnb, but for hotel conference rooms. But I ended up not actually staying that path and came back to RSD because they needed my help to get the company to grow, get the financial resources they need, and put all the infrastructure together. Because the company was very close to a situation where it was completely automated. And it was a situation that you guys want in the first few years because then you'll have a choice. But even if you look at what we're doing now, even though it is just one company, and it does still touch me that we're helping a lot of people and I care about the people that work for me a lot. There's a situation where we have multiple businesses within RSD, multiple subsidiary corporations, multiple business lines. And it's not like I have a passion for all these business lines to a very high extent. Some of them are completely random or tangential to what we're doing. But it's kind of like the same kind of process of having multiple companies, kind of like what you guys are talking about. And I could do that just because they're kind of streaming and they're automated. And I think that if you do something that you're passionate about directly, then that's going to be great. Because I know people that have created companies that are not passionate about, but they have the passion in just the business side of things and the mixture of moving parts. And I think they had a lot of success. One of my friends is Tony Shea. He's not like obsessed with shoes, but he created the company from the very beginning to build a company that sells $1 billion worth of shoes. And he loved the process of building a corporate culture and the fun of that. And it's not necessarily the product that you have to be passionate about, it's the systems and what have you. Or if you're really passionate about the product and you are in the lifestyle business, because right now you don't have the people that are building the systems for you, you have a very small team, that's one thing. The challenges you also face though is if you try to go the other route, taking that business from a lifestyle business to something that's not, you're gonna have to really focus on balancing crossing the line of going from a solvent company to not being a solvent company, but you have a system in place that allows the company to continue to push forward. And then just making sure that even though your profits might be a little bit smaller, now you have a lot more time, which is just as valuable. But if you do that, you're also more likely to sell. It's kind of hard to sell a business that doesn't have that in place. It doesn't give the person who's buying it as much flexibility either. So if you are, whether you're interested in trying to sell the company or you're interested in doing the route of creating another company, you need to do that. The only reason why you'd want to continue the situation now is if you actually really enjoy what you're doing and you just want to keep doing what you're doing because you have the freedom and time and a lot of money. I mean, if I want to terminate, like a ton of people from RSD and just do everything myself, I might make actually more money, but I might not. And I definitely wouldn't have any time to have a family, friends, go to Harvard, or do anything else. So it's a sacrifice I made, but that's the kind of choice you have to make. I prefer the route of having systems in place.
So yeah, if you were to start over, even though RSD started as a lifestyle business, like you would have started thinking about building it into an asset way earlier than like say like because us we're basically optimizing for the fact that this business can be lifestyle business, can keep it really lean. We're optimizing to keep it lean, purposely making decisions so we don't have to grow a big team. But you're saying if you were to, you know, in our age or where we are, you would start thinking about like building this asset way earlier, right?
Well, I did. Corey Rudel, he created internetmarketing.com, was my mentor. And he created this Bible called The Insider Secrets to Internet Marketing. I don't even think it's available for sale, so I might be able to find it on eBay or something. But he passed away, that's why. He died in a car accident. But he always talked about how you should build a company with systems to be automated so that you have the flexibility and the choice to make that decision. Because where you are now at 24 may be completely different 10 years from now, but if you don't work in the automation process, which could take 3 to 5 years or longer, then you're not going to have that option.
One of the questions is more about, it's not less about like building out systems was my original question. My question was whether or not like investing in these short-term cash flow businesses, like these businesses that we're doing and these stores that we're setting up online, they're generating a lot of cash fast, but they're not essentially like building like brand asset or anything like that. I'm wondering if that's like kind of short-sighted or like where you should like dig into one, build that brand asset, build a company with you know the culture, the systems and stuff.
Yeah, like if you were to be real blunt with us, like you think like our mindset is, oh yeah, this thing generates a really good a lot of cash, big ROI on your money, but no brand asset, nothing like that. So
but then we don't but then again we don't want to like dig into, we might not want to build a brand around these like little niche stores that we're building, you know what I mean? So we have all these like random niche stores. We're not, like what we say, we're not super passionate about any one of the niches, but we're passionate about that it's generating profits. But it might be like short-term.
Yeah, is that short-sighted, basically?
Short-sighted?
Well, I mean, your average customer right now, are they buying multiple times or just one time? Because you do have a brand that you have built, but it's in that one particular product. It's just not the store to get the repeat customers. You don't have like a big product line. Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, at least you've captured their contact information. So if you do expand and you have a trusted product, you could sell ancillary accessories, products, and grow from there.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I just wonder if sometimes like, you know, we're just focusing on like stacking up as much like cash and resources as possible. I wonder if sometimes we think like, okay, you know, is this the right path? That's what we're wondering.
I'm thinking about that example with like Nasty Gal. You know,
oh yeah,
that girl that.
So there's like the entrepreneur who started Nasty Gal, which is like the clothing brand. She focused on that one thing, and she really built out the brand, and then she was able to exit huge, right? So obviously that is like one of the goals is to be able to exit and like have all of these efforts pay off. You know, sometimes I wonder if we're doing the right thing, like focusing on just almost like hoarding this cash, like
we're doing hustles, doing cash flow stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if your business is supposed to be built to sell, you definitely need to have a lot more repeat customers than first-time customers, and then that first-time customer doesn't buy again.
Yeah.
So I would start tracking that, and then if you're not getting the numbers you want, relatively speaking, you just need to increase that. I mean, for RSD, it's about 50-50. You know, we're definitely not in a situation where we're focusing on selling though either. Right. But I mean, you know, an average person might buy 6 to 8 times from us. Right. It's still quite a lot. Right. But I mean, we have a ton of first-time customers. Right. But having that repeat business makes it, you know, easier for you to sell because you now have a product line. But if you also have a brand, like you could also just sell one time. But because your reputation is so good, people just continue to come back to you and come back to their product because word of mouth goes. And now you can still sell. It's just going to be different. You just need to have. I mean, most people don't even buy based on that kind of business model. Most people will buy based upon your revenues, your profits, maybe like EBITDA, so 3 to 4 times EBITDA if you're growing, or 1 time if you're declining. Or they might do it based on your web traffic if you're a tech company that just cares about the traffic and smoldering it into some other company.
A side question, so like what's like the multiple for like an info company? Or like a company like say RSD where it's so have like the coaches and the I guess consultant. It wouldn't be consultant.
In terms of like a sale?
Yeah, because RSD it's so reliable.
Well, let's put it in the standpoint of information businesses in general. Right. Most of the companies that sell are not $10 million companies. They're usually companies that have a big like expo presence. So they're companies that are maybe selling for like 20 million. They have like large amount of profits and revenue. And I know a guy who just sells companies that are like in the $20 to $50 million range.
In the info space, or
in the exhibit and expo and seminars attached to expo space.
Okay.
And because the amount of corporate sponsors that are involved with that, they have all these great relationships with all these other, B2B kind of vendors, even though they're, a B2B as opposed to we're B2C. Right. I think it's somewhat similar in terms of that kind of space. But those guys will get, 3 to 6x EBITDA as they grow. But I don't think it's that much different whether you're in the info space or whether you're in the technology space in terms of what people will buy or sell. Right. I know another company that was basing their company just on traffic, and all they were an info company that sold one digital product, and they had a forum. And they sold 6 times their annual sales, not profit, annual sales, just because they had so much web traffic. So some people will buy off that. I also think that's really silly. And I think that a lot of VCs convince people that their web traffic is worth so much more. That company I told you about also went out of business. The person who bought it also went out of business. So that's why I usually think that most people who are smart investors will try to, if
base it on profits.
Based on profits, based on EBITDA in terms of growth.
Right.
People will buy for these crazy amounts of money. Right. I know people that have purchased many companies that are ridiculous. I mean, even from the most popular sales, like MySpace sold for a ton of money, and now it's almost, not relevant in terms of like social media. They still probably generate revenue, but it's not significant like when it was like the thing that everyone talked about all the time.
Right. Got it. And like, do you, so like changing the topics now, like if you were to like start a new business right now, right? Obviously you have a lot of connections and you probably know a lot of insider knowledge. Like, is there some sort of trend that you'd watch out for or get into? Obviously there's big trends like robotics or artificial intelligence, but like, is there something specific?
Well, my skill sets have been kind of focused on building off of my already existing client base and growing new business lines from that. Right. And so what I'm doing is actually just that. We're actually expanding RSD into like health and fitness, higher purpose, and in business and wealth building, where you have like the same business model. Right. But we also are doing ancillary stuff that I think that are kind of fun. For example, I'm building a hip hop musical in the history of RSD, where I'm actually being the artist, and Tyler and our rest of our staff are also. Right. And we're going to put that like a Broadway tour kind of thing.
Oh wow! Okay. So like, what about if you didn't have RSD?
If I didn't have RSD,
but you had your skill sets. And
I knew you were going with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea of technology because just like you guys, I have a technology background from university. I had a university professor as a father, and he was teaching computer science. And so I love the idea of scaling technology. Even RSD couldn't be around. I couldn't even exist if it wasn't for the fact the internet existed and allowed people like myself to create a global company on the internet. And then, instead of having to have offices everywhere and try to use mainstream, news channels or whatever, really way harder and way more foolish.
So are you doing any like investing on the side other than these active projects that you're working on?
No, definitely not. I mean, I think I'm also in a different situation because, I kind of have like a backup plan. I have like real estate and various other things that, are there that I've kind of like just gotten through my family that I know that are coming to me eventually.
Do you do any like active real estate stuff? You're like,
when we create Vegas Immersion, we are leasing all sorts of crazy things, and then we had like 33 condos that we were renting out to clients. We had a hotel on the Strip. It's like a 250-person hotel with like a restaurant and a convention center, and then we had rooms that were sold to clients and stuff like that. That was a very tough business, and it also takes a lot of time to grow. And we eventually got out of that business, and now we're in like the ancillary business of like a private labeled hotel business called rchoteldeals.com. I think I showed it to you guys, where we get a percentage of the revenue and profits from the sale of these hotel nights.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Yeah. And so, like, real estate, some people treat it like as their primary business, but other people just treat it as like an investing vehicle. Like, what's like can you share about like your investing strategy, or like what would be your recommended investing strategy for someone who's like younger like us? Our thought process about it right now is we'll get the best ROI if we just invested in our own companies. But obviously, at some point, you're going to start diversifying.
Well, I mean, if you're a talented entrepreneur or businessman, then yeah, you should definitely do that. That's what we actually do. I mean, I invest primarily just in my own company. Now, I used to be a financial advisor. I was a registered financial advisor, and I would sell, more conservative investments like mutual funds, IRAs, Roth IRAs, things where people could put money in there and they could get an expected percentage of growth. But you're basically the idea of investing in other people's companies that are trusted by the market that you believe is going to succeed. I also have friends though who've invested in such things and lost quite a lot of money because there's just as much risk in that as investing in a company that you create yourself. It's just that one, you control your own destiny, one you don't. Most people though don't have the skill sets or the resources or the mental frame to actually be an entrepreneur or even the team. So many people who want to just be in business, they want to kind of just learn how to manage a business internally and then invest in things like real estate or IRAs or market. And I think that's totally cool also. Okay. But I think it also depends on the person. I mean, for you guys, I think that you're doing the right move. I mean, you actually will take a exam. It's like a financial responsibility exam to become a registered investment advisor. And one of the things that you have to focus on is that any solution you offer has to be customized to that particular person's risk adversity and also their overall, overall needs, goals, desires, and who they are. And so if I was going to recommend something to everybody, I could do so, but it's not as good as you guys just kind of determining for yourself what your needs and goals are. And it sounds like what you're doing is the right way of doing things, because the profits that you're making now from your company, just from knowing what they are, is just so high compared to what you would get in the general market. Plus, every 10 years there's a recession, and we expect one to happen in the next couple of years.
Okay, got it. So what are your thoughts on like stock market and like those type, like traditional?
I have stock options in companies, but I mean, it's not stuff that I, personally invested in as just myself. I mean, I have bonds and treasury bills and stocks and stuff like that, but I don't really consider that like a significant focus. Got it. I do have quite a lot of money in that kind of stuff, but it's mostly stuff that my family kind of set up for me. Okay. Now I believe that investing in the market is cool. I've made a lot of money in the market, just ancillary money.
Specific companies or like
specific companies.
Okay. Do you like?
One of them was DeVry.
Okay.
And that's of course because of my family. Right. But other ones have been in the stock market itself because there's been mutual funds that my family has gotten in very early. Okay. And they're kind of closed funds that people can't get into anymore, but they could get to in the very beginning. And those kind of things are cool. And then real estate. We have real estate all over the world.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, you mentioned something about like mental frames. Like this is like a different topic, but curious to know like what your mental frames are for business. I mean, if there's five mental reframes or frameworks that maybe were mantras that you repeat, like in business. I'm sure you all have those. Like as you go along and you make sense of like lenses that you look at.
Yeah. So field experience is king in terms of like everyone learning from the field as opposed to just formal education, just from books. You'll learn a lot more from actually doing it. That's something that I'll preach all the time. Speed of execution is the key to success because people will come up with ideas all the time, never act on it, implement it, and when they do act on it, they don't go all out. So I'll definitely do that. The other part is thinking outside the box. But I mean, in terms of thinking outside the box, I really do believe anything is possible. It's just that it's an issue of time, sacrifice, and whether you're willing to do whatever it takes.
So thinking outside the box is that's kind of like a loaded, one of those like hard to grasp questions.
Elaborate?
Yeah.
Like or maybe an example. Or
one example or like a creativity process that you use to think outside the box. Like how can somebody duplicate that, or how can we duplicate that?
Right. So if there's a process that I'm used to doing a certain thing, and everyone else is used to doing that certain way, then that's the concept we're talking about. An example would be, I have a cat. He was told to be put down because he had a fatal terminal disease. And so I said, no, I got really mad, started yelling at the vet, saying, that is not happening. This cat will live. They've never cured this disease in 50 years, but my cat will get it cured. And I honestly believed it. And so we got him into, we went over the internet and searched, found a clinical trial, and then he got cured. But then we also have other situations. For example, we had a global situation where everyone is trying to shut down our bank accounts because of Julian Gate, which was a situation where Julian got listed as like the most hated man because on YouTube he posted a bunch of videos. And like, you cannot survive. You shouldn't, you know, and we did whatever it took to like use our loyal fan base and prove that the media can't dictate who you are, what you can or cannot do. Any fabrications we dispelled because our audience knows who we are. And then we clarified and cleared the air. But I mean, I think a lot of it is from the stance that people tell you something can't happen. The mindset is clarified that you possibly could. I think I also got to instill because my dad would say things like, you know, you took too much food, Nick. Your stomach is bigger than your eyes are bigger than your stomach. And my mom would say, prove your dad wrong, Nick. And they do it for schoolwork, for work, for everything, even the creation of RSD. And so when people who are my peers, classmates in school, competitors would say, you can't do this, you can't do that. The concept of proving them wrong and then figuring out a way to make sure you're doing something different than everyone else that you believe is going to work. But I think it's also the fact that I had a good team. One of the things that I believe very firmly is the people who are in your team are the people that you're invested in, and that's who the people that want to buy a company will invest in. It's not the product, it's the team. So if you create a product, like your product now, and you don't have a team that will follow the purchase of that product, I don't believe that people will buy it as likely as if you had a team that was solidified and trusted. Because anyone could recreate a product. But the team is something that's more difficult and more challenging. So when we had our company, it was me investing in the concept and belief that Tyler, my business partner, and I, we were investing in ourselves. Like you guys right now are investing in yourselves. And if you guys just bounced and you weren't part of the package for at least a few years, and then involved building a team, that's where you would have an issue with trying to sell. And I also believe very firmly in the concept of social experimentation. So social experimentation would be like a chemist. He looks at a hypothesis and comes up with a conclusion. And so basically it goes hand in hand with the idea that you should lose dependence on the outcome and just socially experiment. Because instead of looking at a failure as like a rejection and that you don't want to face that fear of losing money or having a massive emotional attack, that risk aversion I have is that social experimentation is that I'm just fascinated by the concept of trying it out to see what's going to happen for the reference experience sake as opposed to the end goal. So if I was going to be a scientist and I was going to mix chemicals together, if it explodes, I would say, okay, it exploded. I'll write that down as my conclusion, change the formula and see what happens. Because field-tested actions lead to field-tested results. You change that little thing now, instead of explodes, maybe it turns into like a gel. And maybe that gel is like bulletproof and is able to be super insulating. Now you have a different result. So I guess that's how I look at most of business. And I think that's also what we kind of preach in terms of pickup. Because a guy approaches a girl, he's not there to try to just get that girl. He's there to just get a reference experience under his belt, learn from what's going on, and have a good time throughout the whole process, regardless of whether he gets rejected or not. Same thing happens in business, and that's what I do as a main focus. And if I lose sight of that, it'll demolish everything. Because there's so many pressures as a C-level executive where everyone tries to go up against you. I have very few friends that have owned companies for over 10 years that have not been involved with lawsuits or been involved with competitors or internally, externally, what have you, of any kind. Everyone will go through that whole process. Because there's always people that will want what you have and also won't like the way you're doing certain things. And so you just got to look at that from the standpoint of learning, or else you'll be mad all the time.
So that's a great lead into the other question is, you mentioned Julian's thing, you mentioned what you said before, like most C-level executives, they handle this type of stuff. I'm curious to know, like, okay, some shit happens, right? Shit just hit the fan. What goes on through your mind? Like, okay, like this is what I do, boom, boom, boom.
Like the Julian game.
Like
the first thing when that happened, I said, "Wow, this is funny. I can't believe the media actually thinks this. They're so dumb." You know? But then when they start organizing like riots, then I'm like thinking, "Okay, what can I do to actually get us out of the situation?" In fact, one of the people here is Allie, and Allie was involved with managing our venues. And so basically every hotel in the city was told to shut down our venues. So what I did was instead I rented a bus, sent it into the middle of the riot with our name on it, and then had the rioters surround the bus. And then our students, we'd go into the audience, took our students, and we put them on limos and sent them to a boat. And we did a seminar on a boat instead. So my idea was just very out of the box in terms of like thinking.
Specifically, out of the box, right.
And so, but then the strategy was, okay, great, now we have the seminar happening, but now we have a guy on the boat who is a mole, and now he's hanging on to the anchor. And now we have another right to deal with, and now we have a PR crisis. So now how do we get ourselves to remove the lies of like criminal liability? Because they're saying that we're committing crimes, that we're not like a dating organization. We're teaching hundreds of thousands of people how to rape and physically assault people. And I thought, wow, that's pretty crazy, because if I was a rapist or someone who was committing crimes, why would I go into large groups of seminars with people where there would be potentially cops or other people, and just mastermind? It made no sense. And so I remember the most popular comment on these articles is, this can't be for real. And I said, that's because it's not. But so we had to get our guy on CNN and clear the air. But I would have done differently though, is I would have organized a press release and a conference and actually said our opinion, even on our own network, because it would have been syndicated anyway. But we just didn't want to even engage with the media, because what they were saying was just so dumb that the people who would be writing about it are probably the same people. And so just giving fodder to really dumb people to just share their ideas is not the way to go. But there's also smart people out there that we could have engaged with as well. And that's also why I believe that in the future, influencers, especially intelligent ones, will be the people that people follow. The biggest thing I think people this year have as like a new kind of epiphany is that you should have distrust of what's being said in the mainstream media, because there's actual real bias and clickbait intentions to get more revenue behind media as opposed to truth, where in the past it was mostly about truth, kind of like how nonprofits were there to fight and go for a particular purpose. I think in the past, there was always this goal of the media to try to like, fight things like seditious libel, or the authorities not saying the truth and stuff like that. Now it's just about influence through profit, whether things are true or not, as long as it gets a good headline, as long as you could avoid getting sued. And I think that is going to be changing as someone comes up with more technological business models. I had a guy actually email me today with his idea of how he could solve that, and I was talking to him about that. He's a Harvard classmate of mine. But I think that a lot of people will come up with solutions to kind of defy this. And that's why I really do see companies that are the mainstream media that people follow on the news networks, on television, losing more and more revenue until they go the way of MySpace, where there's secondary sources to the social media. There'd be secondary sources to the actual news.
Got it. So kind of side topic, it's somewhat related. Like you mentioned influencers and things like that. Like for as long as I've known you, like you're just an amazing networker. This year, one of our things that we want to do is we want to focus on building audience and building a stronger network. So can you just give us, like if you were to teach someone to network the way you do, like what would you say?
Well, there's a few things that I've done in order to network. And the first thing, I had to learn how to network. And so in order to do that, from being like a conservative Asian kid who didn't really have a lot of friends growing up, and he was not really going out to parties or having an active dating life, to becoming a person that had a big social circle. What I just started saying yes to everyone inviting me to any kind of social invitation whatsoever. And I would also do the same. I invite anyone and everyone to any kind of social invitation whatsoever in order to build a network. So I did parties, I did dinners, I did lunches, and if I was by myself, I just walk up to random people and start conversations and say, hey, I don't like eating alone, can I join you for lunch? And I would just do that in random restaurants or what have you. And I did that to the extreme, even going to inviting people whenever I want to go out to a bar, just invite maybe like 30, 40 people, maybe 10%.
And you don't worry about like mixing different types of social circles together, right? Like you're never thinking in your head.
Well, this is to build up the momentum. So in the beginning, no. Now I have a situation where I do have a lot of friends, and I want to go deeper in those relationships. That actually is the main reason why I created the YouTube channel. I want to get back in connection with people, and as a result, I want to have particular people that I believe that should be friends with other people, connected with each other. And sometimes I'll have these larger dinner parties where I just have all my close friends related to me together, and I also will distance people that I think that they shouldn't be connected to each other from each other because they just won't get along.
Okay, got it. But in the beginning, just full force.
If you want to build that skill set, if you feel like you don't have that network, that's what I've done to build that network. Now I'm looking at more trying to connect people that can offer value to each other, with each other as well. It's like a big value connection thing. And I think that when you do that at a very high level, it's worth a ton of money to both people involved that you're helping connect, but also it's worth social capital to you because now you got a feather in your cap, you're to help your friends out, and you also establish a reputation for being a great person.
And connected. And so like when you're at these conferences, you literally just walk up to them and you say, like, hey, I mean, you just introduce yourself, right? There's no...
I mean, I don't think it's about like the tactical stuff. What about like the mental stuff behind it?
Yeah.
Like, what is your frame of
Yeah,
thought?
I actually had like a specific thing about that.
Well, the first thought process I have is that I look at everyone as someone that I want to network with, regardless of who they are. And when you do that, that's important. I mean, if you look at the mantra, the tree that Harvey McKay talks about, he talks about this networking tree where every single person has 200 people in their life that will be able to, at their funeral, tell that person's autobiography for them. And each of those 200 people have 200 people. So you have connection to like 40,000 people just for a couple degrees of freedom away from each other. Now that's a lot of people because everyone knows people that can be connected to help your friends or what have you. They just don't think about it. Sometimes it might take them a while to get even used to the process of connecting people. So I mean, just being good to pretty much everyone is also a thing that I'll focus on. Now, you're more likely to get people that are able to be a part of your team or be a part of your mission by hanging out in particular groups that are dedicated to that purpose, whether it's the masterminds that you go through. I know that you guys will go to Maverick Business Adventure events and you'll meet other people that are around, or Maverick Next, where you're around the same age and you're the same entrepreneurial category. And things like that are great because you'll meet those same kind of people and pretty much everyone is there, as opposed to me just going to a random basketball event in the city of Compton. And so that's likely, right? So it's you're still needing to put yourself in those situations. And I've spent well over $1 million in 5 years attending mastermind groups, my wife, Amber. And I think that helped a lot to build a right Rolodex. But when I am going to the right events, it's not like I'm going to that event to meet one particular person. Unless I know that particular person is like the one person I need to talk to. And that's very rare. And even if I'm doing that, I'm still going to be networking with a lot of other people.
But like, say when you go to one of these mastermind events, like we just went to one, do you make it a point to go and meet everybody? Or
Yes.
Like literally just introduce your... Okay.
Anybody. Not everybody, but anybody.
Okay.
But if there's a particular person who I know that we should definitely talk because there's a way I could help him and he could help me, I'm zooming straight to that person as fast as I can.
Got it. Okay. And another thing is about like following up and cultivating it once. I feel like...
Hey, what's up, bro? Come on in. We're just doing a video interview.
Right on.
Come on in. Hey, good to see you. We'll be finishing up here in a second. This is Eva, Drew, Livia, Larry, Perry, John. Where's Allie?
Allie thinks
She's picking up getting Christina and Frankie in the lobby.
Oh,
she'll be in the lobby.
Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead. All right, let's fish this up.
Yeah, for sure. Because this is the part I really want to know, which is cultivating. Because I think we're pretty good at let's say meeting and like building the connections initially now, but you meet all these people and then they fade off because either they're not good at following up.
So what I do is I'll follow up immediately afterwards with every single person. I don't like business cards for my giving to other people because I want to be the one who follows up with them directly. So if I get a business card, I'm going to be texting them and emailing them and following up with them and saying I want to connect. I mean, a good example is Drew who just walked into the room here. You know, I followed up right away and said, hey, I want to stay in touch. And now he's one of my closest friends in Vegas. But I mean, you can do that with anyone. It's just that you have to actually be the one responsible for doing it, not let them be the only ones who's responsible for doing it. If you actually want to continue.
Sure. And do you have like a system for doing that? Like, every 3 weeks? Like, how do you get reminded?
I don't necessarily do just like a regular event. It's more sporadic, where there's events that I might organize. Like, hey, I'll invite them to a monthly dinner party. I'll invite them to dinner. I'll invite them to lunch. I'll invite them to do a video interview. But I create these things. Even mastermind groups. I organize mastermind groups not for money, but for fun, just so I have an excuse to reconnect with people that I could connect people together for large events.
So how do you organize all these different...
You must have thousands.
You probably have like thousands of people that you're connected to. How do you, do you have like an Excel spreadsheet, or do you...
No, just my cell phone. I used to. I used to use Salesforce, I used to use discussion boards and have threads by city and organize it that way. But now my head is just wired to think like think there's that organizational structure. I needed that in the beginning. And yes, did I have Excel? Yes, I did. Now for party lists, for particular events, I still use Excel and manage that way for particular events. But most of the time I don't have to do that because it's just very strategic game plans I have, and my time is a lot more scarce.
Right.
So it's not like I'm just saying yes to everything now.
Yeah.
It's very, very different.
But you won't have like a reminder pop up, like let's say 3 months, like, oh, you haven't connected with so-and-so, connect with them. Like you don't have like a system for that?
No, I definitely do that. So I'll use Google Calendar, and I'll have a reminder that says, hey, you need to follow up with this person this particular date and time for a particular event or a golf outing or some kind of thing to do.
Okay.
And then it'll pop up and remind me, and I just need to remember to check that. The other advantage I have is I have a great assistant.
Okay.
So my assistant will also organize things for me, and my assistant will invite people to events and things for me that she thinks that I should be connected to or people I should be connected with.
Okay.
So that helps a lot also. I mean, I have, even today, a couple people coming in from Canada, and I had no idea who they were. My assistant invited them to hang out with me and party with me in the Super Bowl.
And they knew, your assistant knew they were coming?
Well, my assistant I trust. So I'm like, well, if my assistant said I should hang out with these people, I'm going to hang out with them. I don't know anything about them, but I'm totally cool with doing it. And that's just having a good gatekeeper.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Great. Well, yeah, that's a great takeaway because I'm obviously you build a huge network, and knowing like that you consciously like set these reminders, etc. That's good to know because we're sometimes wondering if we're like going overboard with it. You know, like having these Excel spreadsheets like of like different groups.
You can't go overboard. I think that in the future, you might not do that in the long run.
Yeah.
But I think for the first few years, as you're doing something that works for you, just keep that going. Yeah. Keep that up. Yeah. But I think what's going to have to happen is you just have to follow up with them that maximizes, leverages your time. So I asked, Tony, we were at a mastermind with him. I asked him, because I read in his book that he used to follow up with people by the phone and find out about his customers. Tony Shea, actually, yeah. I guess I say Tony just because I feel like everyone just should know him because I'm from Vegas. Right. And just everyone, when you say Tony, everyone just assumes it's Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, so I asked him that, and he goes, well, I just try to focus every day on how I'm going to leverage my time to the most. So I don't do that anymore. I was doing it at the time because I felt like that was what I needed to do. And I feel like the same thing is going to happen with you guys. As you leverage your time more and more, you're going to have a situation where you're going to change your processes to fit where you are in terms of your time and the resources that you have.
Got it. And a last question would be, so on that note about meeting these people in masterminds and whatever, a lot of them, they're living their own life, they're busy, they aren't good about following up with you at all, let's say, and you're always the one following up. What do you think about that? Do you find yourself doing that with some relationships, and are you okay with that?
Some relationships, at the same time, I'm now in circles where a lot of the people are very similar to me. They're probably just as connected as me or very close to that, and they will do just as much follow-up or even sometimes more than I'll do, and I'm really impressed by that.
Right. But for the people who don't, like, do you ever be like, all right, you know what, this person's obviously not engaged in this relationship, cut them off?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like I necessarily just cut them off, burn the bridge, but I just will focus my time on those people that are engaged.
Okay.
It's like falling up with the girl and trying to force her to be your girlfriend, but she's not really falling up or interested in you. It's the same thing in business or any other social aspect of your life.
Right. Actually, one more question is, so like getting into and meeting like high level influencers, any like strategy around that?
Yeah, I go to those events where they hang out and also hang out a lot with their friends. I mean, not like necessarily intentionally, but sometimes I'll just, well, actually a lot of it is intentionally, but some of it's not. So let me expand. So I'll go to events where there's a lot of influencers or people that are in the particular thing I'm interested in. For example, today I'm going to a Super Bowl party in the music industry because I'm creating a musical. Right. Now I also go to composer showcases, which are organized by people who create Broadway plays in Las Vegas. I'll go to business networking events for internet marketing because I'm interested in internet marketing. I'll do these particular things to meet and hang out with those people, and then if there's those high-end people that are speaking at those events, I'll oftentimes talk to them after they're done speaking, or I'll pull them aside outside the conference room and talk to them afterwards. Now, sometimes I go to charity events, I'll network there, but I feel like going to actual events where people are there for the purpose of learning. You're already with people that are there for the purpose of learning, they're there for a reason. I mean the people who are speakers, like I'll speak more now for events as opposed to just paying for events to go to now. But that's why I go. I go because I want to go there to network. The speakers want to network with other speakers, also meet people in the audience, because in the audience there's always going to be people that are interesting to the speakers as well. Right. So yeah, the thing is usually I go up to them, talk to them, try to hook them and to build what we call sticky relationships. Sticky relationships are situations where you meet someone really fast, just like a cold approach pickup. and you kind of develop a reason for them to want to engage. Develop some wide rapport.
How do you do that?
Some of the things that you'll do is you just explain very quickly about how you're doing something that you know that anyone, no matter who they are, will be interested in. One of the things I would do that for is over video interviews on my YouTube. Second thing is mastermind groups. Third thing is that they're local, I'll invite them to a party. Fourth is I'll say, hey, I want to connect them to a particular person I think they'll be able to help them. Or if I don't know anything about them, you know, I'll be just doing cold approach pickup, get to know them, develop wide rapport, have a wide variety of transitional threads, and use that to develop a sticky relationship because we just got to know each other. We had time to get to know each other. But if there's particular people of power, I'm just going straight in there and I know these are the particular things I can focus on. And it's just like a computer algorithm. It's like, if this, do this. If not, do this. But it's like kind of like autopilot now. You got to start this process with maybe one of them. Even when it was in, say, Hollywood, and I was involved with Xeni, and we're having these massive parties at movie studios and mansions every week. I was just using kind of like my default to invite people to one particular thing. That was my focus, inviting people to go to one of these epic parties, and then getting to know them better, and then finding out whether I could, you know, turn this into a friend or someone I was dating or what have you.
Exactly.
Same thing in business.
Yeah.
Or invite them to have free products and services from your company, or anything else you think is going to stick. Something fun, you have a passion, or a similar place you like to visit. Just try to find ways you could stick to that person. So when you contact them, it's just not, hey.
But it's always a placement. You're always like coming from a place of like providing value to them. I know some people, the way they network is they immediately like talk about, you know, their accomplishments or whatever to kind of be like, oh, I'm a valuable person for you to connect with. Personally,
that's not enough.
I don't feel
I think that you could do that, but it's not just the concept of being someone who has that. You can do that, but you still have to stick with them. Because when you're, network at events, for example, everyone is of the same level of prestige, or there's varying levels. It doesn't really matter, because right now I'm more interested in connecting with people that aren't necessarily rich and powerful. I have a lot of those kind of friends. I'm interested in people in the music industry.
Okay.
So everyone's interest is going to be different.
Yeah, those are some great points.
Yeah, for sure. Very thoughtful.
Cool, Nick.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheers.
Thanks for all the advice. Yeah.
Awesome. If you have any questions for me, Larry, or Perry, write them in the comments below. And thanks for watching the video today. Cheers.